And I was talking to Jim Marrs, the best-selling author, researcher. His book, Crossfire, got turned into the movie JFK. The 50th anniversary is coming up. We're going to talk about that later. First, we're going to talk about some of the current events. But, Jim, you were saying, oh, yeah, I mean, the real Captain America from the comic book character, he would be 100% against what DHS is doing today.
Well, yeah, because the original Captain America, you know, started off during, back in the 40s, fighting the Nazis. Nazi, you know, that's the German acronym for National Socialist, okay? And they get everybody together and take up the weapons and make everybody toe the mark. And if you speak out, then you get arrested. Oh, wait a minute. It kind of sounds like what's happening today, doesn't it?
What's happening to our press right now. We're going to go to break and come back into the banking, the NSA, all of it. But as a guy that wrote for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram for decades, Jim, as somebody who's been a professor teaching, you know, JFK research, as somebody who's been around, I mean, you were a journalist back when Kennedy got killed. You even knew Jack Ruby. Understanding all that, what is it like to see members of the press being arrested, SWAT teams raiding the press for their files on government corruption? I mean, Nixon never even imagined stuff like this, Jim.
That's true. Captain America, if he was a real person, if he was here today, he'd be throwing up in his soup at what's going on today. It's incredible. And
well, he'd be a terrorist.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because he wears a funny suit and, you know, fights for freedom.
He's for due process freedom, and I mean, that's terrorism.
Yeah, well, they pretty well outline that as that's
they openly say any veteran is a terrorist. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And what's really bad now, and people need to understand this, if you're a veteran and you go in and you're trying to get some VA benefits, one of the questions they ask you is, do you have any guns? And if you answer yes, you better be prepared for a whole battery of stuff, and they're going to put you on the list, and then...
Any reason to take your guns outside law, they'll do it.
Now, why was it... I mean, we've had veterans going all the way back to...
Aren't you a veteran?
Revolution. Oh, yeah.
I mean, a terrorist?
Oops, wait a minute. Maybe I should not admit having served in the U.S.
So you were a terrorist, too?
Yeah, yeah. They trained me to use a rifle and during the Vietnam War, of course. And we've had all these veterans all the way up here, never had any problem. Why all of a sudden now do they feel like a veteran is a problem? You know why? Because they're trained with firearms and they know how to use them.
They could stop a takeover.
They could stop.
What do you make of Fort Hood on record now saying if you're evangelical or give it the Tea Party, you will be arrested? They had to back off, but I mean, that even freaks me out, that they would violate the First Amendment and threaten people.
Well, they backed off by saying, well, that's not official policy. That's just somebody happened to say that. But I'm here to tell you, in the military and in the Army, you don't say squat unless it's approved by the higher echelons. So they're lying through their teeth when they say that this is not.
Oh, we know. No, they said that we're going to remove those training materials that are Southern Poverty Law Center.
Right. And, of course, the Southern Poverty
Look at how they're persecuting the Tea Party and pro-life groups. I mean, look at how they're going after people. That's illegal.
Southern Poverty Law Center is a branch of the ADL.
That's right.
Okay, so they actually should be registered as foreign representatives of a foreign government. The Tea Party, good, bad, or indifferent, at least they're homegrown people. They're just American.
Well, that's why they're terrorists.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And people better start waking up. I've been trying to preach this stuff for almost 50 years now, and everybody says, well, you're just a conspiracy theorist, except all my conspiracy theories have now come true.
Well, I mean, it's been on record. They've been trying this forever. People say, well, it hadn't all happened yet because we've been trying to hold it back. But unfortunately, most of it now has happened. I mean, we're failing. So the more we fail, the more we're right. We don't like being right.
Well, up until recently, up until about 10 years ago or so, every time they would try to put screws to us, they'd say, well, that's like the Nazis, and everybody back off. But now, with 9/11, the attack, and then the Homeland Security, the Gestapo, and then the Patriot Act, which is like the enabling act.
It's all for our safety, but who protects us from the system? Stay there. Alex Jones here with a message to fellow freedom lovers. The prognosis for the entire planetary economic system runs from bad to worse. The globalist model is to shut down societies and starve patriots out until they acquiesce to the global takeover. That's why we've assembled the most vital and important preparedness items at InfoWarsShop.com. These are items that I did research on, that I personally use. You've got the Life Straw, so you can turn fetid water into safe water anywhere you go. The K-Tor hand crank generator to charge up key equipment during power outages or out in the field. Strategic Relocation, 3rd edition by Joel Skousen. When Disaster Strikes by Matthew Stein. ThyroSafe, used by Homeland Security to protect yourself during any radiological event. Hand crank shortwave AM/FM radios. Everything that we've researched and found to be the best is available at InfoWarsShop.com, and your purchase makes our InfoWar possible. We're getting prepared. Are you? InfoWarsShop.com. Investigative journalist Jim Mars is with us for the balance of the broadcast. Haven't had time to give the number out or go to calls, unfortunately. But the weekday show is coming back up tomorrow, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central. That's 12 noon to 3 p.m. Eastern. You can find all the show times, affiliates, everything else at Infowars.com. But, Jim, we have a choice to make. Will we be a free society still, or are we going into tyranny? And there's no doubt we're very, very deep into tyranny. The denial is over. Now they're telling us the tyranny is for our own good, but we know it's not. But you were shaken up watching earlier, if folks missed it, the video and the audio we aired of the state police attacking people legally carrying firearms downtown, even when they were presented with the law. And Texas is only one of 6 states that bans the open carrying of handguns, but these were black powder, so they were legal. But I'd forgotten about this. In '78, you caused congressional hearings, and the DPS, it turned out, secretly under the feds, had files on Texans. Even mainline liberals, conservatives, didn't matter. You broke that for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Tell folks about that.
Well, that's true. I remember having a face-to-face meeting with Homer Garrison, who at that time was the head of the DPS, and I learned later that following the release of this story, they destroyed and shredded tons of documents down there. It took them weeks to do it. They were putting out reports on people who were simply going to city council meetings and raising questions about nuclear power, and they were putting reports on them and marking them subversives. Okay, so see, this has been going on a long time.
It's a chilling effect demonization campaign.
Yes.
Now it's evangelical Christians.
Yes, yes. But the difference is back then, when my story hit and other media started following it, there was a huge public outcry.
He almost went to jail. Nowadays, it's like, well, of course we spy on you. Shut up.
Exactly, exactly. And now, I look around and everybody's partying and, let's go and have a big dance.
Well, I mean, that's the issue. A free people will be aggressive and jealous of their freedom, as Thomas Jefferson said.
Yeah.
Slaves won't be. So folks got to decide how they want it.
That's right. The time for decision is rapidly approaching.
Get back into that story, though, what they were doing.
Oh, well, people would they had undercover DPS guys that would go to city council meetings and county commissioner courts meetings and would take notes. And then anybody gets up and raise questions about what's going on. At this case, the key thing was about nuclear power, because they were debating whether to build that Comanche Peak nuclear plant. And all he did was, like, one of the fellows was an airline pilot. He simply went there and raised questions, wanted to know how much it's going to cost, how long it's going to be. And they wrote up a report and then sent a copy to his boss, and it was marked subversive.
I was about to say
that cost him his job.
That's what the Secret Service does now. If you criticize Obama, they try to get you fired. It is political warfare, like the IRS going after the Tea Party. This is criminal. They should lose their jobs, not the guy that went and asked questions.
Exactly. And again,
man, they're evil. How do they hire such scum?
Well, some people do anything for money, But what gets me is the reaction of the so-called honest people. Again, back then there was a groundswell of public outrage saying you can't be doing this, and they backed off. Today, I don't see any public outrage.
Well, it's there, but the horror media covers it up. But I mean, get back. So you broke this. How did you first discover it? And then what did the head of the DPS try to do to get you to back off?
Well, the way I discovered it was this pilot, a friend of mine, was friends with a friend of mine, and through this friend, I finally convinced him. He didn't want to go public because he didn't want to lose his job, and I finally convinced him, you got to go public, and you got to use your name so that people know what's happening. And he finally toughed it up, and he did. His boss was a good guy. He said, you're not a subversive, and he didn't lose his job. And then other people started coming forward saying,
that's the key, is Americans standing behind free speech.
Exactly. Hey, listen, everybody, I'm sure you've heard this same refrain, but I'm only one person. What can I do? Well, hey, all throughout history, it's been one person that changes history. History has never been changed by a committee.
Look at Gandhi.
Exactly. Look at
Martin Luther King, Christ.
Exactly. Exactly. It's always been one person.
They weren't even going to have the Revolutionary War, but George Washington showed up and said, I will command the forces.
That's right. Now, on the other side, it also works on the other side. When Hitler showed up at the German Workers' Party, which became the Nazi Party,
he said, I will lead you.
There were like 9 people there. 9 people. And from there, it goes right on up to World War.
And evil knows how powerful the individual is. That's why they try to shut him down. How dare an airline pilot not want to pay for a dangerous power plant in his neighborhood? How dare you in America? We're going to get you fired.
And when you go through a border checkpoint and they say, are you a U.S. citizen? You just say, I'm a Texan. And laugh it off. And why should you have to declare who you are? Why, in a free country.
Well, they've already legalized all the illegals anyways.
Exactly. It doesn't matter,
Ron Paul's right. They now admit the border, the fence is to keep us from leaving.
And that's what it's getting to be. And that time will come.
No, I talked to the Coyotes down there when I was at Big Bend last year, I guess earlier this year. They said, oh, no, we have dozens a day now that leave and go across on the canoe.
Yeah.
So now it's the other way.
That's right. That's right. And if it gets to be a real stream, they're going to start closing it off. They're going to say you can't leave.
Oh, that's what they already tried to stop. They let the illegals pour across. Sure. It's thousands at night, even in Big Bend. That's the middle of nowhere. Cops all just stand down. They're all paid off.
Well, I think right now, and I could be wrong, but I think right now you can still physically get out of the U.S., but you can't take your money with you. You can't transfer it.
The IRS couldn't get it passed last year, so now it's just a reg where if they open an investigation, you can't leave the U.S.
That's right.
That's capital controls.
That's right.
What do you make of
and that's open an investigation. That doesn't mean you're being convicted of anything. So in other words, if Alex Jones...
There's not even an indictment.
No. If you wanted to leave the country, all they got to do is say, well, we've got him under investigation. Bam, you're shut down. You can't go.
And people are like, well, that sounds good. Oh, really? That's only in North Korea, Nazi Germany. For folks that don't know history, when that happens to a country, everyone flees in fear. I mean, folks don't know the stuff that's already happened here is like a death sentence for a country. I mean, it's like red level. We're in critical condition.
Yeah, it's all over but the shouting. But like you said earlier, it's time. You're going to have to pick a side. You're either going to be the side of freedom or you're not. And the thing is, people of good conscience can disagree and still be free. I grant you your freedom to believe, worship, whatever you want to do, as long as you're not in my face with it, And I think you would grant me the same right.
Exactly, but the so-called liberals running the Pentagon say you can't be a Christian, we'll have you arrested. I can't believe they're even doing. I mean, it just shows these people are nuts.
Well, and it's the same thing. They observed Ramadan in Washington, but they wouldn't let them put up a Christmas tree. Wait a minute. I mean,
why do you think they're so after Christians? Because I mean, what's going on there?
Well, because Christians have a history of freedom and of supporting. Even though they do go for, render under Caesar, they nevertheless have always been for freedom. This country was founded mostly by people fleeing Europe who wanted to practice their version of Christianity.
Exactly, but that's the modern Hitler Christianity of Romans 13, do what the government says. They're afraid of the real Christianity that led the rebellion against King George III in 1776.
Well, in the New Testament, they asked Jesus, his disciples do, they say, should we pay taxes? And what did he say? He said, go down the river, catch a fish. If you find a coin in the fish's mouth, then pay it as taxes. Well, that's what are the odds of finding a coin in a fish's mouth? Not very good.
Well, that's why Paul said render unto Caesar, because that's his face is on it. Yeah. That's his system. He issued that money. It is his.
That's right.
But nothing else is.
And you don't have to use that system. You can barter, trade, set up your own money.
I want to come back and get into 50 years after JFK, the NSA, so much more with Jim Marrs. Give us your website.
JimMarrs.com, strangely enough, and that's Mars with 2 R's.
JimMarrs.com. I'm Alex Jones. Stay with us. Are we we choosing our own destiny, or has it been pre-selected for us?
As we've moved through history, every great leader has had to understand the potential of information.
Billions of dollars have been spent, privately and publicly, looking at how to tap into your psyche.
From compulsory state education to the Hollywood media brainwashing machine, we are kept in perpetual bondage to the ideas that shape our actions.
When somebody obscures that feedback loop between you observing and testing it out and verifying it, they can take total control of your awareness.
All of this is happening so fast, you need to be ahead of the game.
How to engineer the opinion of the American people so that they would not only endorse but demand a war.
Oh, there's another one. Another plane just hit.
State of Mind, because there's a war on for your mind. Get your copy of State of Mind, the movie, at Infowars.com. And remember, every order at InfoWarsStore.com receives a free Citizen Rulebook. Well, the Jerusalem Post is reporting that Sheldon Adelson, noted billionaire businessman, casino owner, and who also owns newspapers in Israel, suggested the U.S. should use nuclear weapons on Iran to impose its demands from a position of strength. Folks, imagine saying preemptively nuke Iran, blow up a city, kill 1 million people. That's an international war crime. And that just shows the madness that's going on as Iran actually tries to make deals like Gaddafi did. So they double-crossed him, put al-Qaeda in charge. Our own allies got double-crossed in Egypt and had al-Qaeda put in charge. Now the same thing in Syria. I'm going to get Jim Mars's take on this and then talk about some attacks on free speech in America that are currently going on. But here's a clip of him, American Jewish billionaire, blast Obama over negotiations with Tehran. Here's a clip of the audio.
So there's an atomic weapon goes over ballistic missiles in the middle of the desert that doesn't hurt a soul. Maybe a couple of rattlesnakes and scorpions or whatever. And then you say, see, the next one is in the middle of the river. So we mean business. You want to be wiped out? Go ahead and take a tough position and continue with your nuclear development. You want to be peaceful?
And everybody cheers. So nuke some rural area, and then say, I mean, it's just madness. And again, I'm not on the side of Israel, Iran. I'm on the side of just common law. I'm not Iranian. I'm not Israeli. I'm just an American who is just so sick of. I mean, the West has radicalized Islam, destabilized the Middle East. Going back to British intelligence that Hitler took it over, we owe the Muslims an apology, if you really study history, for how we've meddled in their affairs and put radicals in. Every time they try to put some mainline guy in, our government takes them out and puts radicals in. That's why this is so evil. Because you could argue there's radicalism, they're a threat. But when you help radicalize them just so you can take American liberty, Jim Mars, you're an expert on this. What do you have to say?
Well, it's just amazing. I mean, what you're talking about is absolutely true, but then that's ancient history. Let's talk about like right now. Just in the last 12 years, al-Qaeda is supposed to be, we're supposed to be in a death battle with al-Qaeda, right? And on September the 17th of this year, Obama waived the portion of the law that prohibits American companies from providing weaponry to terrorist groups so that he could arm the Syrian rebels, half of whom are al-Qaeda.
And it actually said armed terrorists.
Yes.
It actually said armed terrorists.
Yes, because he wants to arm the terrorists. Now, what kind of game are we playing? And, of course, the whole war on terrorism thing's a joke to begin with. Because let me tell you something. Think about this.
NSA documents came out last week. They were trying to gag us over it, where they admitted in court it's all fake.
It's all fake. And anybody with any, if you use your brain, you can tell that, because here's the deal. We're supposed to be so afraid of an international terrorist group trying to slip weapons of mass destruction in our country to destroy our freedoms. And yet, what have they done to secure the border? Nothing. Okay, and yet you go to the airport and the TSA's all over you. Take off your belt, take off your shoes, take off your jacket, empty your pockets.
Now they're spying on everything you do outside your house without warrants. NSA.
But wait, you go rent a private airplane and you go fly to any one of the little thousands of airports all around the United States, and there's no x-ray machines, there's no nothing.
I'm no jet setter, but I know a lot of Hollywood folks that'll literally say, hey, we want you for a party tomorrow night in L.A. The jet's landing. Yeah. And a wide-body jet lands, for folks that don't know how these people live, and there's a butler on there and you.
That's right.
Or if you're really in trouble, a couple of girls in swimsuits, you got to say, no, I'm married. But the point is no ID, no nothing.
No nothing. You can fly from Texas to L.A. and land at the private airport over near their private hangar, and you can unload your baggage and your anthrax and your nuclear bomb.
Oh, yeah, it's totally just like the bin Laden family, when all air traffic was grounded, they were allowed to fly out 15 flights.
Right. And Richard Clark, the head of the anti-terrorist team, said, well, okay, you can do that, but they need to be debriefed first by the FBI. But they were not. Nobody even questioned them. Here's the bin Laden family gets to fly out of the United States, for, on a free ticket, and weren't stopped, wasn't questioned.
The general public has no idea how fake this is.
It's total fake. But look at the billions of dollars, trillions probably, that have been poured into the war on terrorism. And then you look around, you see the school systems falling, you see the bridges, the roads, the infrastructure is falling apart. Think of all the good we could do with this money that we've been squandering over there. 12 years of warfare in Iraq, and they're right back where they started from, fighting between the Sunni and the Shiites, and who knows, okay?
The general public has no idea. That's why I got so mad.
And they won't wake up. That's what I don't understand.
That's why I got so mad at Ben Affleck. He admittedly only flies on private jets. Good for him. He earned the money. But he goes, oh, let the TSA do whatever they want. Shut up and do it. He doesn't fly commercial.
Neither do those congressmen. They don't get searched, except for Ted Kennedy. He got on the no-fly list and got stopped 3 or 4 times.
Which shows no judge, no jury. Listen, let's shift gears, because I want to get into a bunch of news with you now. For those that don't know, it's been the Dallas Morning News. It's been in the Dallas Observer, and I'm going to be there this 22nd. Hard to believe. I was talking about this a year ago. Now it's here.
Yeah.
They've said no one is allowed in Dealey Plaza for the 50th anniversary who doesn't agree with the official story. You've got to be invited. Well, it's a public park, and then no demonstrations around it. They're announcing a violation of the First Amendment so the international press and others, this is going to be the Streisand effect, and you know what that is, where she didn't want media covering her, so it made it bigger.
Right.
I'm going to be there. Everybody needs to be there with their bullhorns and their flyers. The press will all cover us, and it'll all be about how they're trying to censor us. Plus, every poll shows 90% know they killed Kennedy. I mean, it doesn't matter. But it just shows what thugs they are. Tell folks, you live up by Dallas. What's happening, Jim Mars?
Well, what's happening is for 50 years, the various groups and various researchers and various Kennedy files have tried to get a permit to go into Dealey Plaza and officially hold some ceremony, and the city never would issue a permit. They said, it's a public park. You can go in there and do what you want to do. Okay. Well, this year, 50th anniversary, the city fathers and mothers of Dallas decided that, oops, foreign press may be there, and we don't want anybody telling anything other than the official Oswald did it alone theory. And so they, for a couple of $100, got a permit and it's going to seal off the park for 4 or 5 days and not let anybody in there unless you buy a ticket. And then when you buy a ticket, you can't pick up the ticket until the morning of the event. And then you have to go funnel through the police checkpoints, and then you have to be vetted by the Dallas police. So in other words, I know people who are conspiracy researchers who cannot even get onto their website or get registered and get one of these tickets. No, it's
going to be selected lapdogs. This is going to blow up in their face royal.
Well, I would hope everybody.
They don't even get it. If they let us in, it'd be less of a story than the fact that they didn't now. They're idiots.
I know they are. They're shooting themselves squarely in the foot.
It's like the NSA had put out a 30-minute pro-NSA thing saying shut down the press. It has a record 8,000 downvotes, 100 pro votes. It has the record negative votes on YouTube.
Right. Well, I would hope everybody that's listening to your voice today and mine would simply decide they're going to go to the park on that Friday afternoon, 50 years after this whole country took a turn for the worse.
The foreign banks had a coup and took a big dump on us, you mean?
Yep. Absolutely. In fact, what's now becoming quite clear to everybody is that obviously you don't kill the chief executive of a country unless you have taken pains to see that the person that takes his place doesn't come after you. So obviously Johnson's name is being now thrown around more widely than ever, although I can recall on the day of the Kennedy assassination, there were many people who quietly and under their breath were saying Lyndon has a hand in this. They knew.
Well, his lawyer has said that.
Yeah. Oh, and now lawyer, now Secret Service guy. It's all coming out now. But again, we're not supposed to talk about it, and you can't go to Davy Plaza and try to raise questions.
Listen, I've been on airplanes flying from Dallas to Austin with like high-powered people. I mean, my family was in Dallas. It's a big joke. They know where everybody was trained, everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
well, here we are on the 50th anniversary, and let me try to cut through all the...
Stay there. Come back and give us it all crystallized.
Okay.
The essence of the JFK assassination, the coup against America.
We take this business of waking people up very seriously here at InfoWars. That's why we have such a huge outreach operation. And it wouldn't be possible without the InfoWars magazine. And we have a very special October edition for you. We're going to make it super easy for you to get interactive with your friends and family by giving you these lovely cutout masks. Not one, but two very scary educational tools for you to hit the street.
Join with the collective. Just go to sleep, and when you awaken, it'll be no more free will. And whatever you do, don't get a copy of October's special Infowars.com magazine. Whatever you do, don't resist. Give in.
260,000 of you could be out there as Obamacare or Prozac, the killer clown.
Hi, kids! It's me, your favorite selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor!
Just cut along the dotted lines, cut some holes for the eyes, and attach a few rubber bands, and you are ready to wake up America this Halloween.
Remember, kids, Obamacare is for you and your family, and so is Prozac and Ritalin. So whatever you do, don't secure your copy of InfoWars magazine and resist, because death is good for you.
You can pick up your copy today at the InfoWars store. You can always buy these in bulk at cost, and for a limited time, the annual subscription is just $39.95. Call now because operators are standing by.
Obama will have you.
Because people need to know that Obamacare is bone-chillingly frightening.
New York Times endorses Blasio for mayor. Just interesting how the country's collapsing, but they're saying there's no problem taking place with the economy. And the globalists, their answer is more taxes, more regulations. That will take care of everybody. And now we learned about all the illegal NSA spying. The list goes on and on. Up on Infowars.com, you can see my satire on the Redskins announce official new name change to the Sandusky's after D.C.'s favorite pastime of pedophilia. So it'll now be known as the D.C. Sandusky's, or how about the D.C. Tyrants, D.C. Criminals, the D.C. Pirates. See my video up there. We have the video of the Texas police assault legal gun owners, and the big video, leaked video, FEMA preparing military police for gun confiscations and martial law. Investigative journalist par excellence, Jim Mars, is in studio with us down here in Austin, Texas from Dallas. You were saying you would crystallize, as you did for my son Rex, before you came live with us, the essence of questioning the official story of the JFK assassination 50 years ago.
Yeah, well, we're heading into the 50th anniversary, and there's already been a spate of books come out, and you're going to see TV specials and retrospectives, and all is ooh and ah, and people just can't accept that a loner can change history, and I guess we'll never know, and it's just too controversial. Let me cut through all of this, okay? Let's just use our common sense here. Here's the deal. Here's the Kennedy assassination in a nutshell. If you trust the government, then you trust the evidence they've presented, and it's pretty damning.
And you believe monkeys might fly out of my patootie.
Yeah, and it pretty well proves Oswald did it, okay? But if you don't trust the government, then you begin to look at that evidence, and when the closer you look at it, it all starts falling apart, okay? The fingerprints on the rifle. The funeral home director said the FBI came in and put his dead hand on the gun, okay? The x-rays and medical...
the hundreds of dead witnesses.
Dead witnesses, the autopsy x-rays and photographs, the men who took them. Not conspiracy theorists. I'm talking about Floyd Reevey, who took the photographs, and Gerald Custer, who took the x-rays, now say the ones they're showing us in the National Archives are fakes, phonies, and not the ones they took. The documents were altered.
Congress found it was a conspiracy.
Exactly. The last official word of the U.S. government said it was probably a conspiracy because they had 2 sets of acoustical scientists who said at least 1 shot came from the grassy knoll.
And now they've got this flotilla of whitewashes going on.
That's right. And they're going to try to keep anyone who's got a dissenting voice from the Oswald did it alone theory out of Dealey Plaza on the day of the 50th anniversary.
Good luck with that, dumbasses.
I think they're shooting themselves in the foot. I would hope everyone would just trek over to Dealey Plaza and just show up just to be in a public part that's publicly taxed.
Oh, yeah, it's going to blow up in their face, Royal.
Are you going to be there?
I'm going to be there.
All right.
I already said a year ago I wasn't this when they said no free speech there, which they've never done. They won't give us a permit, but now these other Jolly Rogers, they get one.
Oh, yeah. The 6th Floor Museum, which is claims to make no particular statement of opinion, and yet they've plexiglassed off the window of the 6th floor of the old book depository so that no one can get up there and look out and see that there's a tree intervening in the line of sight to the road.
But, I mean, you have all the witnesses seeing them shoot him. Let's put up the Streisand effect for those that don't know want to read it. The Streisand effect is a phenomenon whereby an attempt to hide, remove, or censor a piece of information has the unintended consequence of publicizing the information more widely, usually facilitated by the Internet. It is named after American entertainer Barbra Streisand, who attempted in 2003 to suppress photographs of her residence in Malibu, California, inadvertently gathering further publicity. I mean, that's the good news is none of this is working.
No. Well, truth will out, you know, and this is the truth. And I taught a course on the Kennedy assassination for 30 years at the University of Texas at Arlington, and that goes back 30 years, and I haven't seen anything to change the conclusions that I've discovered and that were found by the House Assassinations Committee.
Look, off record, I know people that are related to LBJ that talked about what he said before he had a heart attack and died.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, none of this is a secret.
No.
I mean, I've interviewed his mistress, all of it. And people say, well, it went higher than him. Sure, he was just their puppet.
Right.
But the military, from your research, Jim, you're probably, no doubt, the leading world expert on JFK. In fact, there's no probably about it. Who was behind it? What were the reasons?
Okay, I'll tell you what. Well, number one, yes, Lyndon Johnson was the most powerful senator on Capitol Hill. He was head of the Armed Services Committee. He was the guy that had his hand on the purse strings of the military. So anything the military did, they were like, you know, 2 sides of the same coin. All right, they wanted Vietnam. That's number one. Kennedy was going to disengage. And that's number 1 reason. Number 2 reason is that his brother Bobby was prosecuting organized crime, and it's been said by a member of the Kennedy family, if they'd been left alone, if Kennedy had lived, they would have broken the back of organized crime in the United States. Think what kind of country we have today with no organized crime.
No, instead we're run by organized crime.
Right. And the other thing is that in October, Kennedy issued a memorandum to the head of the CIA demanding that they turn over all their files on UFOs. Biggest secret we got going, set a deadline.
And he was going to abolish the Federal Reserve.
And that's the key. The next key thing is that in the summer of '63, he issued $4.2 billion through the Treasury Department rather than the Federal Reserve System. The money wasn't worth any more or less, but we didn't have to pay interest on it. And by the way...
2 foreign bankers.
Exactly. By the way, I'm sure you've already mentioned to your audience that this December, the 100-year...
December 23rd is the 100-year anniversary of the 3 senators voting through the private Federal Reserve that is as private as my big toe.
So we don't have to...
I mean, the Federal Reserve is as federal as my big toe.
We don't have to put on a huge, big effort like Ron Paul was asking for to audit or anything else. All we have to do is not renew their charter.
But notice there's no discussion of that happening.
No, you're not going to hear that in the mainstream media.
Jim Mars, we've got about 5 minutes left in this live Sunday transmission. I see positive things happening. Folks are waking up to the NSA. Yep. The police state, the military saying no to the martial law plans they're testing. Folks say, well, they're not doing it. We have to discredit it so they don't try to do it. They're trying to sell it to the military. That shows they're trying to go operational. I see a lot of positive stuff happening. I see a big awakening, but I also see the tyranny pouring in like a flood. Where are we historically? How big is the awakening happening? What is your... as a wise owl, what is your perspective? A guy's been around, since the 60s for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. What does your gut tell you about the future for my children, your grandchildren?
Well, my gut tells me we're in a precarious situation in the United States today, it may be a little too late to save the republic, and it's a little too soon to start shooting those bastards.
So we're in pretty bad shape.
Pretty bad shape. But as you said, there is a consciousness raising going on, and there's more and more people waking up. But I would say, as an admonition to those folks, when you wake up, go try to wake up your neighbors. But actually, though, here's the problem, Alex. You can always wake up somebody who's asleep, but you can never wake up someone who's pretending to be asleep. And we have too many people in this country today pretending to be asleep because they don't want to deal with it.
That's profound, because I run into people that go, actually, I know you're right, but what do I do? They feel powerless.
Right.
And it's like, if you just start resisting and saying no, it's over. But they've just given in. I can't imagine the feeling of just giving in to the worst common denominator. Because when you give in to tyranny, you let the worst people in the world run things.
And the last time I was flying out of DFW International, there must have been 500 people gathered up there in those, back and forth lines waiting to go through the TSA. And they had maybe 10 TSA guys there. Why not, people, if they had any backbone, if they'd simply say, look, this is wrong, I'm going to go to my plane and walk on through there. 10 people can't stop 500.
Sure, and the terrorists would shut down the airport and say they were keeping us safe. The truth is, the people they represent run the terrorist.
Right.
They staged it all to seize control of society. Isn't that clear? Isn't it clear now they did all this to take over so they could rob our bank accounts and put out Obamacare? I mean, it's clear they did it, and they've been caught doing it. They are the terrorists.
And Obamacare obviously has very little to do with medical, and it has everything to do with data mining. They're trying to get everybody's bank account number and
that's right, and then grab your bank account because you didn't buy Obamacare. You can't buy.
Exactly. And now the proof of that is that when they try to launch their big website for everybody to sign up, it doesn't even work.
Well, Jim Marrs, I want to thank you for joining us. JimMarrs.com, Crossfire, back out in print, the preeminent book on JFK. Folks, there's a war for humanity, a war for reality going on. And criminal interests run our country. They stage the terror attacks. They run al-Qaeda. And they are in total disdain of the public. They think we'll put up with anything. And they are maniacs. But in the final equation, they will be defeated. Speak out against them. Support free speech in your area. Support liberty. Support local businesses. Support local and independent media. That's where it all starts. Jim, thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex. And just say no.
That's right. Learn to say no. Oh, you want to see what... I'm going to tell the story tomorrow what happened to me yesterday. I haven't even gotten to that. 11 a.m. Central, the weekday show, 12 noon Eastern, Infowars.com. Great job to the crew. Lord willing, I will see you back tomorrow. Until then, vaya con Dios. Alex Jones here to warn you about some of the most important health information you may ever hear. I'm talking about radiation, radioactive fallout, radioactive particles contaminating the Northern Hemisphere. Conservatively, since the 1940s, the Northern Hemisphere of our planet has more than doubled its background radiation. In fact, that was before Fukushima exploded. Now the levels are going up and up and up. Fish are contaminated in the Pacific, and the FDA, the EPA, and others, they're not worried about it. They've been raising the levels of what they claim is safe radioactive particles. Well, I began to discuss with my wife protecting myself, her, and of course our children. Most importantly, I have 3 small children, ages 10, 9, and 5. Radiation really affects children more than adults because they have fast-growing cells. All the literature is clear on that. And I went and talked to medical doctors, scientists, nuclear physicists, nutritionists, and I said, what's the #1 thing I can do to protect my family? And they said, Alex, it's leave the Northern Hemisphere. Go south of the equator. That's where the radiation levels are very, very low. If you look at the wind patterns, the north hardly interacts with the south. And it's unfortunate that we've done this to our planet. So after more than 2 years of research into how to protect my family, looking at all the literature, talking to the experts, across the board they agreed, Iodine is key, but of the family of iodine, nascent, natural, non-GMO, non-factory iodine that comes from the earth is absolutely paramount for your thyroid and other functions in the body. The literature, the research, it's there. It's not my opinion. It is admitted that iodine is essential for the health of our bodies overall, and nascent iodine is the best form. Now, we're announcing the launch of InfoWarsLife.com, and we're going to bring you scores of products over the next few years that we're researching and developing. But nascent iodine is the first product we're coming out with because it's so important, and it's also listed as a fluoride detoxer. It does so many other things. Your body needs it, and when you don't have enough iodine, forget the radiation, your thyroid absorbs the sodium fluoride and other things. And it's the good iodine, the nascent iodine, that is able to block that and just do so many things for your body and your health. I've been taking it. It's amazing. It's a lot better than coffee, I'm here to tell you. And that's why we are now offering our own nascent iodine that's double the strength, made in the best laboratory that is FDA certified and accredited. And it is double strength at half the price of the leading competitor. You know my rule, bring you the highest quality products at the lowest prices we can, so it's a win-win-win. I believe in you reap what you sow. So not only will you get the best deal on nascent iodine at InfoWarsLife.com for your general health and also for any type of emergencies or disasters, you will also be getting a great deal and supporting the InfoWar and our news operation, promoting the cure for tyranny, the First Amendment, promoting liberty and a rediscovery of the Bill of Rights and Constitution and true Americana that's made this nation so great. So please join me in being among the first to visit InfoWarsLife.com. We've got discounts if you buy the nascent iodine in bulk. I challenge you to try to find a better deal. We have the best deal out there and the best quality. In closing, here is probably the most important point. You don't just take nascent iodine when disaster strikes, when there's some new giant disaster. The Northern Hemisphere is already double what it was 60 years ago with the radioactive background. I believe from the research I've done and the experts I've talked to, it is key to take nascent iodine to protect your thyroid from the radiological disaster that's already happened. And unfortunately, future disasters that will happen. That's why it's important to fill your thyroid up now with the healthy nascent iodine so that the sodium fluoride, the radioactive isotopes, and the rest of it can't get in. That's the key. This is something that across the board has been shown in study after study to be an absolutely essential nutrient in the body. Until a few decades ago, the government put it in the salt because they knew you needed it. But then they took that out, that's good for the thyroid, and put the sodium fluoride in that's bad for it. Talk about eugenics, talk about soft kill, talk about an invisible weapon in the water supply. This stuff is on record as a detoxifier for the fluoride they're adding to our water. Nascent iodine and InfoWars Life Survival Shield in double strength at half the cost of the leading competitors. Please visit InfoWarsLife.com today.